Let's bring Bobby Marks into the conversation and get some more insight on what is happening with NBA free agency, which doesn't start, but the Rockets said, hold my beer, Bobby, because they have started this thing off, and everybody in Philly wants to know what is happening as Houston, they basically are saying, hey, Jimmy, why don't you go tell Elton Brand you would like to play here, and we'll try to get something done. So kind of give us a little insight on this whole situation, on how you see this. And do you think there's legitimate interest in Butler to go to Houston and tell the Sixers, hey, I'm not going to sign back here, so you might want to listen to what the Rockets have to say?
Well, I think if I'm Philadelphia, I'm saying if it's not us and you can't go to Houston on your own, because they're like, who's the third team, right? Like, who is that other team that is going to give you that max, contract there? And it's hard to pinpoint one right now. So I think if you're Philadelphia, you have multiple options. You're certainly going to meet with them. You have, you can offer them a 4-year deal, a 5-year deal. I mean, if you offer them 5 years for $190 and it's not good enough, I don't know what else you can do here. I mean, that's the most you can offer. And as far as where it goes to Houston, there's a lot of logistics here to kind of maneuver through as far as, if you're Philadelphia and you think that Butler is going to leave, and you are not going to recoup anything, does those players make any sense for you? Like, Eric Gordon, I don't think Clint Capella does. But Eric Gordon or PJ Tucker, and maybe if you can get a couple first-round picks, then that's something, maybe that's something that you think about here. So, yeah, I think, I think there's a lot of what ifs here. I think the first domino to figure out is if Jimmy Butler wants to stay in Philadelphia. It's, if he, it's a little concerning that, 4 to 5 days before free agency that, this is kind of coming out here, right? It's like, I could understand if Philly offered him 3 years, $100 million, and he felt lowballed here, but we haven't even gotten to that point yet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're not there. We're not at the point where the Sixers could offer them anything, but I guess the Rockets are kind of desperate here, though. They know they can't do anything, so is this just a ploy by them to try to, see see how interested Butler is in them?
Well, yeah, Houston's their options are limited, right? When you don't have cap space, you don't have cap space. Not much you can do about it. Even if they try moving those guys around, you basically have to move Chris Paul and basically everyone else to try to fit Butler in if you wanted to sign him as a free agent. And I don't see anybody taking that Chris Paul contract down for nothing here. So, yeah, but Daryl Morey is the general manager of the Rockets is creative. We've seen this exercise the last couple of years. We saw 2 years ago with Chris Paul, right? They went through that as far as getting him in a trade right before free agency started here. But I don't get it from Houston's perspective because you look at the Western Conference. The Western Conference is wide open, like it is. Like I thought, I think if they don't get in their own way, they're probably top 3 team here. So if you do get Butler somehow, you're losing 3 starters, and now you're relying on the minimums because you are, you're faced with the hard cap restriction. So I just think a lot of balls in the air there. I think let's see how it plays out over the next, couple of days here as far as, what happens.
Bobby, if you're in Philly's shoes and Jimmy says, look, I don't want to resign, I'd like to go to Houston, is Eric Gordon, Clint Capella, PJ Tucker attractive to you? Or do you, if you're Elton Brand, hold their feet to the fire and say more? Or does that then put Philly in a bad spot once Butler gives him the heads up that, hey, I don't really want to re-sign here?
Well, I do like Clint Capella, but I don't know what Clint Capella does for you, right? Especially with Embiid there. So can you redirect Clint Capella somewhere else and get maybe a first round pick? I think the big question if you're Philadelphia, you have to weigh is the value of cap space, just letting Butler go for nothing, right? You'd have probably $25, $26 million in room, and you can bring back JJ and Tobias, or the value of players that are under contract. So those are 2 different scenarios for Ellen and his group to look at if they get to that point.
Bobby Marks at Bobby Marks 42 ESPN with us here, just running down a couple of scenarios with this news that just came out. Now, recently, that Houston is offering Capella, Gordon, and Tucker individually to teams with cap space. That from Woj to try to absorb salary. So they're trying to get first-round picks. So essentially, it almost sounds like the Sixers and then maybe they've contacted them, and the Sixers have said, what you got ain't good enough, so you better do this, this, or this if you want to open our eyes.
Well, and I think especially as far as, taking back money, I mean, I think if you're, Philadelphia, I think that's right. If you can get maybe 2 first-round picks and one of those players, I think that's probably a pretty good alternative if that's what you want to do here. So, and it's a confusing, process because, the money doesn't match up, even though it looks like the salary doesn't, because there's a rule called base year comp. So you basically need to recruit like multiple teams in here, 3 or 4 teams to get, to be able to get something done.
Yeah, you broke that down on SportsCenter about base year comp and why it matters. And I don't know that many people have heard that term or even know what it is. But how
we'd have to do about 4 segments in your show, and I think your listeners might drive off the side of the road when I'm going through it.
Right. Well, I saw you breaking it down last night, and I was scratching my head and saying, "Wow, this is something that nobody would ever hear about." But these are all the little intricacies of free agency that get thrown into the mix.
So basically, it's for the simple version is basically that even if Jimmy Butler signed a 4-year, $140 million contract in the sign and trade, and year one is $32.7 million, he would be subjected to base year, where for outgoing salary they would look at what he earned in the previous year, so it would be $20.4 million. So if you're sending out $20 million and you're taking back $29, that's not within 125% of the rules here. So that's why you would basically have to divert one of those other players to another team where you're taking back less money.
There you go. You got it all broken down.
That's it.
Bobby Marks got it for you. I know. So that whole situation is something to keep an eye on. Very fluid. Houston, Butler, Philly, and what happens there. What if Butler left Philly? Are they in play for anybody of note, or are they still not in position to replace Butler with a player of Butler's ilk?
No, I mean they're. I don't know about as far as caliber, but you'll have, if you keep, Tobias, with his cap hold, you still have, with Redick and stuff, you'll still have money to go out there and, you still have money to go out there and spend on guys. So I think that's, you've got to have that plan B ready in case you get noticed that, hey, I'm going to the Lakers or I'm going to, the Knicks, let's say. I mean, you'd have $26 million. So who are those guys that you can kind of, fill in the gaps there?
Sunday, 6 o'clock. We're going to see stuff faster, or is it going to be like, all right, let me pull off here, and are we all going to be so anticipating Sunday, 6 o'clock, and then nothing happens?
Well, what happens is a lot of those Tier B guys that aren't max guys, let's say the Marcus Morrises of the world, maybe Danny Green, Jeremy Lamb, J.J. Redick, even like that. Those guys kind of come in fast and right off the bat. The main guys usually are the ones taking the meetings and kind of delay the process here. So probably outside of maybe Klay Thompson, back to Golden State, I think we'll probably see a little bit of a delayed process for the A-list players. But I think I think there are going to be a lot of players not waiting to wait this process out and will take the best, probably take the best available that they have.
Bobby Marks right here, Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN. Crazy time of the year, I know, for you and the team. We appreciate you giving us a couple of minutes, Bobby.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you.
At Bobby Marks, 42.